The following is a conversation between Matías De Stefano, referred to as me, and his higher self, referred to as I am. The date is April 18th, 2021. The subject is the emotional aspect of the knees in Aries. And the title of today's blog is Independence. Me. Oof. When I unload the fury on myself, I feel exhausted. Today I thought I would wake up stronger, and actually I can't wake up, not even now. I did exercise anyway. I think that is helping my flexibility. But I still don't know if I have reached the tipping point. I am. What do you think would be your turning point? Me. Free myself from this emotional weight and make a break with the above. I am. What is the above? Me. I don't know, a kind of energy that prevents me from moving forward, taking the day-to-day as an adventure with strength, vigor. It's like I'm dragging something that's not even mine. I am. Whose then? Me. I try to think where, and my grandfather's face comes to mind, but behind it, that of many in my family, at least those who have already died. The De Stefanos were not known for having the best of wills or a love of life, starting from the simple fact that my great-grandfather decided to change his last name from De Stefano to De Stefano, which is one word, because he had gotten tired of having to spell it and explain how it was spelled. With my mother, we changed it back to the original. None had a real dedication to life, and they almost adored dying young, like his mother, my great-grandmother. My grandfather's favorite phrase was, "Meh, what for?" with reluctance, almost with an aversion to life itself. And sometimes I find myself saying the same thing, like inheriting this, a weight I didn't choose. I am. But what did you accept? Me. It must be that honoring the clan. Many people drag things that are not positive for us just because we believe that this is how we honor our ancestors. Fears, anger, jealousy, struggle, racism, misogyny or misandry, xenophobia, religious beliefs. I don't know, so many things that we sometimes consider natural in our way of thinking, and attitudes that speak of issues that have not been worked on, of aspects that we accept. Perhaps laziness is one of those sins that I inherited from my family, at least from the male part. I am. When generation after generation you find yourself hanging on the concepts of your ancestors. This is called dependency, formed from the words de, meaning movement from top to bottom, and pendere, meaning to hang or slope. Something that is attached to something else. Me. Why do we live our lives hanging on the lives of others? I am. For survival, to ensure our subsistence in the world. As we have said, it is the search for the acceptance of the group, or the mechanisms that tell us the others survived because of this and maybe it will help you too. Me. Yes, but I realize that it's not really like that, because many did badly using the same system. I am. Well, that's the old world story. As much as for millennia the kingdoms proved to be warlike, hierarchical, and harmful systems for the people, even today there are people who defend royalty. As much as colonies have been a misfortune in human history since they began with the conquests of Greece and Rome, even today countries continue to treat their regions as colonies controlled by a central power. As much as they have had all the samples to confirm that democracy does not exist, the people continue to defend representative democracy. We defend the above because we come from it, because it is what brought us here. The first system that refused to do the same as his predecessor was Samael, the bearer of light, Luciferus, who was considered a traitor, Satan, for going against his predecessor. This is the stigma that those who decide to do something different from the clan have by nature. At first they are considered traitors, deserters, no matter how much they seek to transcend themselves. Me. Transcendence is seen as a dishonor. I am, because it implies leaving the group to become an individual. The word individual means that cannot be divided, indivisus, and therefore it cannot be one thing in one place and another in another. It cannot have two personalities, two faces. It is unique. It cannot be hidden. This is called the quality of being one without division, what you know as individuality. Me. What about individualism, which is seen as a bad thing? I am. It is the movement of this being without division. It is the action it takes to stop living between two worlds, one external and the other internal, and begins to live it as simply is. Individualism is not negative. The problem is that it goes against human morality and ethics, based on tribes, clans, families, and social groups. It is considered a disgrace to leave the group, and yet it is the key to achieving independence. Me. That is a recurring term. They talk about the importance of independence, but at the same time it seems to be taboo. What makes us celebrate the independence, but at the same time seem grotesque to us in the search of unity? I am. Let's see. Independence is precisely freeing yourself from being hung up on someone, to not depend. Being self-sufficient and self-referential, individual. As you told me at the beginning, the feeling you have seems to come not from you, but from something that you have accepted from others. But that makes it part of you, inevitably. You cannot blame your ancestors for what you have agreed to receive from them. You depend on what you accept, not on what is imposed on you. Ultimately, it is the individual who makes the decision to depend on an idea, an emotion, or an attitude. Blaming others in the past or present for what I think, feel, or do is useless in the actual process of empowerment. For an individual to retake his power, his corresponding place, he first needs to recognize that what he thinks, feels, or does is born from the acceptance of it, not from imposition. Thus he can understand that he is capable of freeing himself from the rest and start his life as an individual, being himself, thanks to recognizing the power of acceptance. When you accept that what comes from you only corresponds to you, then you realize that you are free of what you decide to think, feel, or do. Me. That is becoming truly independent. I am. Yes. But of course, it goes against the law of mammals or the organic law of networks, since life is ordered in sets of equals in order to prevail. Atoms, molecules, compounds, tissues, organisms, organs, living beings, bodies, groups. They all interact in dependency networks in which they all depend on each other. It is the key to existence and creation. Me. Seen this way, becoming independent is negative. I am. It is if you see existence as an extension of particles that seek to survive by uniting with each other. But it is positive if you see it as a consciousness expanding to know itself. This, when you become aware, is where the magic happens. Me. What magic? I am. Evolution. Networks are completely modified when an individual finds a different way of doing things. When, after asking the questions, he finds a different answer, which leads him to face all his difficulties. He intends to let go of what he was, in order to, with impetus, solve the problems through the incessant struggle that confronts us to everything that has not been worked on, manifested in fury. When you managed to recognize the roots of anger, of the low vibrations of your being, those things that you have accepted in yourself and have nurtured throughout your life, you have two options: do nothing and relegate yourself to the affirmation, "That's how I am, I will not change." Or free yourself from what you think you are and become independent of this energy. And I answer you again, the reason why people talk about independence but still fear it, it is because of the fear of losing control of their lives, the security of their subsistence. Well, independence implies conflict, breaking, leaving what one is accustomed to find oneself in a different state. Me. I will say that being born in an American country, the word independence comes up almost daily. Historically, we all rejoice in the Republican milestone of having achieved independence from the Spanish crown, in the same way that the Brazilians from the Portuguese and the North Americans from the English. From 1776 until no more than a decade ago, experiencing the independence of countries and the democratic celebrations that this implies, speaking of the value of being able to have determination of government, of choice, giving power to the population to choose their own destiny. And yet, the same countries that in many cases approve the independence of some nations do not do so with their own regions. In Argentina itself, we have seen this with the Unitarians and the Federals, which ended up making the self-determination of the regions disappear, all depending on the decisions of the capital. And not to mention Scotland and Catalonia, like so many other regions with less voice around the world. People usually fill their mouths talking about freedoms, but then the only thing we seek is to cling to what we have for fear of losing it, controlling our bonds and relationships of freedom. And what I said is at an international level, but the same thing happens at an intrapersonal level, speaking of the importance of loving others unconditionally, of allowing ourselves to relate without judgments, saying that we are free as individuals, but then we become attached to or depend on the others, mentally, emotionally, and physically, clinging until we suffocate with jealousy, revenge, rage, anger, betrayal, guilt, judgment, all for fear of losing control. I am. The dependence on groups and networks has led to the existence in the human subconscious of the belief that being united is being together or having possession and control over the other. To be who we are today, many beings have depended on each other. They have needed it as a way of survival in a hostile world. Going alone had many negative results, especially death, which came after the battles, the dangers of the road, hunger and thirst, loneliness. The group sought to defend itself, protect itself, originating the idea of protectionism. He himself launched a series of control mechanisms in which, under the words, "I take care of you, I love you," they end up doing what they want with individuals. And they themselves surrender their power because they believe in these words, or are unable to do better. Me. That is what we see every day with governments, that in the discourse of caring for the population, of protecting the weakest, end up controlling lives and directing the course of beings who could choose their destinies for themselves. I am. And in this way, we do it with our loved ones. In the desire to take care of them, we only limit their ability to be. For being a conscious individual frees you from the dangers of the world, naked to a new possibility. Therefore, every search for independence ends in struggle, in battle, in war, in separation. And this is what the world does not want. It refuses to live, considering it unnecessary. Me. If we have the opportunity to think freely, to communicate freely, to manage our own projects with others freely, then why do we relegate power to others? I am. Laziness of change, fear of transforming, of letting go of the known. What we have talked about until today are the necessary keys to face the inevitable result of a conscious being, which is independence. A people cannot obtain freedom of dependency if it cannot generate its own ideas, feelings, and actions by itself. A being who lives by the ideas and words of others, who does what he is told, who shares a textbook ideology, will never be free. An individual who fears being alone, who is unable to face his own incapacities and internal conflicts, is unable to transcend and be free to grow in the world. It is not a question of systems, but of individuals. Me. No matter how much we build a social system that allows us all to be independent, we will always depend on someone if we don't learn to strengthen the individual. I am. Therefore, you must learn to use the questions we have asked. You must learn to find the answers within yourself, to put the intention of what you are really looking for in life, to let go of those things that damage the integrity of your being, to put impetus into action, to face problems with a different perspective, which allows you to use the energy of your frustration, rage, anger, jealousy, revenge, of all your furies, with the purpose of being free to recover your independence. And when you do, you will be able to free others, understanding that loving unity only occurs between two free individuals, not between divisible slaves. And when you do, all projects will be carried out from freedom, and you can be a prosperous individual who can build a system of independence in which you do not need states to endorse it. Me. I like this. Independence as your natural state. I am. Look your ancestors in the eye and tell them that independence is your turning point, that the system that you once accepted from his hands is no longer useful to you, and it's time to create your own from your individuality. Look into the eyes of those you love and tell them that you will no longer depend on them to love them, that you can be free from expectations to give them freedom and share it together. Look into the eyes of society and tell them that you promise to be an independent individual in your thoughts, feelings, and attitudes, so that you can give them the greatest freedom in all the states of the world. Me, knowing my conflicts, managing the stagnant energy in me from them, I expand to be free, to find the true power in me that I should never have given to anyone, my independence. I am. This is applied wisdom, love manifested, the conscious will. Welcome to your journey towards the independence of being.
My heart's